Hi everyone. Usually Galen and I start out the cold open of the show with like some poor attempt at a joke, but this week we want to take a brief moment to be a little bit more serious. Given the magnitude of what's going on in the US right now and its global effects, we want to waste no time in stating our support for Black Lives Matter and our condemnation of police brutality. We're going to keep doing our show to lighten the mood and hopefully give you something positive to look forward to every week. We want to keep it as light as we can while not shying away from discussing serious issues when the time is appropriate.
Yeah, we also want to use our platform right now to elevate Black voices. So if you are a Black creator in the game industry or you would like to recommend a Black creator to us, please contact us at NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com. We can talk about a guest spot on the show to tell others around the world about their work.
Yes, so please do reach out to us. Just like Nintendo and the Pokemon Company themselves, we are in absolute support of Black Lives Matter. Galen, Did you see that recently, this week?
I think I missed it. What popped up?
Well, both Nintendo and the Pokemon Company put out statements in support, and they both made donations.
Awesome.
I think maybe the Pokemon Company, they put out like $100,000 to Black Lives Matter and to... I can't quite remember. I don't want to be wrong on that. But the whole point here is that Mario said Black Lives Matter, and Pikachu is a Pokemon who can only say his damn name, yet that bitch still said Black Lives Matter. Okay?
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Friends, thank you for joining us today on the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 83. My name is Dino, and with me I have a new Pokemon in the upcoming DLC. His name is Munchalunch, but I have nicknamed him Galen.
Munchalunch, Munchalunch.
A horse is a horse, of course.
Yeah, that's basically.
What that was. So clearly, the new Pokemon DLC is coming out soon. This week, actually, very soon.
Mm-hmm.
What's that called? The Summer Isle? Isle of Summer?
It is the June... Sorry, I had to double check on when you said when it was coming out. Yeah, June 17th.
I don't care when it's coming out. What's it called?
Isle of Armor.
Isle of Armor, just like I said.
Yeah.
Friends, we are a weekly show. Episodes go live every Sunday. We are on all of the podcast platforms. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. You name it, we're there.
Mm-hmm.
Please take a brief moment and rate our podcast on your listening platform of choice. iTunes is the best way to support our show with a rating. Does so much to get us recommended by the RNG algorithm gods.
Absolutely.
We could use your passive buffs.
Mm-hmm. And actually, the ratings that we have been getting have been improving our show quite a bit lately. So, yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrounded by gold.
Is that what you get? You get gold for iTunes ratings?
Mm-hmm. So much, so often. You also get gold if you've played Xenoblade 2. Oh, that's a joke for the new Xenoblade game that came out. If you have data on your Switch, it's not even a joke. Like, boy.
I think we call that
very
a stretch.
weak this episode. But on that note, let's move right into our adventure log and talk about what we've been playing this week.
Mm-hmm.
Galen and I like to tweet about games.
Nice.
That's on my Twitter at Oni_Dino.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will be sure to use my Twitter, which is at Mobius087, to follow your tweets and to post sarcastic things when I feel it is mandatorily needed.
I will mute and block as appropriate.
Yep, there you go.
So Galen, before I go into my first game of the week, what is your history with side-scrolling beat-em-ups?
Oh, I really like the Scott Pilgrim game for the Xbox a couple of years ago. I like the...
That's what you had to say?
Well, I mean, it's definitely not one of the genres that I frequent, but, you know, there's a couple of good ones. I remember playing the X-Men game in the arcade. I remember
Galen
playing the Simpson game with the
once
arcade.
again, for fake gamer.
That reminds me, I gotta look up Castle Crashers again, because I've been kind of itching to play that again.
Oh yeah, it's on Switch.
Uh-huh, yeah, just came out recently, actually.
Not that recently. Keep it up. Keep up with the times. A lot of twists. This week, though, what you should be looking up is The TakeOver.
Okay.
In this homage to 90s beat-em-ups like Streets of Rage and Final Fight, you play as a character whose name I can't remember. We'll call him 90s Dreamboat. He and his girlfriend, Lady in Catsuit, go after the thugs who kidnapped their daughter, breaking the bones of everyone on the crime-ridden streets of the metropolis called Steel Haven.
That is a very 90s beat-em-up city name.
I'm still talking.
Oh, sorry.
Joined by maybe their polyamorous boyfriend, totally not Hagar, they're cleaning up the streets with the disinfecting power of blood.
Sounds enjoyable.
It's very enjoyable. This is a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up, primarily made by one guy.
Really?
Yeah. So it's been in development for like at least 5 years. I first heard word of it because Matt McMuscles, whom we've both recommended on the show for his content, he joined in like maybe 4 years ago just to do like QA stuff.
Okay.
And just because he played like the early Steam Access thing. And he was like, yo, I love this game. I love how promising it is. If you need free QA stuff, I am your guy. And they got to talking a bunch more. And little by little, not little by little, but once more. And long story short, Matt McMuscles ended up producing this game.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's finally out. And I also got a chance to play a development build of the game back when I met with Dongan Entertainment back at Tokyo Game Show last year. And I, had always been looking forward to it, but been a little bit, worried about it just because it's gotta feel right for a side-scrolling beat 'em up and like feel right to me too. So as soon as I touched that development build, I was like, oh, this is one to look forward to.
So what is it about the game that caught your eye so greatly?
It's just, I think the tone and the atmosphere. It's definitely going for like tongue-in-cheek kind of comic book style. Think of like maybe an 80s action movie, or this is going to be a little bit specific, but like Tank Girl, or like the Spawn animated TV series. They're very name droppy, but I mean like they're very highly specific, but just like that's the kind of tone that this game is going for. And it looks great. As soon as I started playing it, like there's like a Donkey Kong Returns or Tropical Freeze style like dynamic pan of the environment, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this is cool. And the environments look super great. It's very highly stylized, but like the characters have a semi-realistic look to them. There's tons of effects happening because you're outside in the rain. There's lights reflecting off of cars, and it really brings out the atmosphere of like a dingy, filthy street look that like you were seeing a lot, I think, in the 80s. That's what I always associate that with. Like, I recently watched Blade Runner and also watched Jason Takes Manhattan, a very terrible film.
You're still going on those Jason and early horror movies.
Yes, I've taken a little break. Especially after Jason Takes Manhattan. That is not a film I would recommend ever. Like, all of the other Jason films are better than that. But anyway, The TakeOver, okay? The story beats in the game are accompanied by dynamic comic-style panels.
Excellent.
To push the story along, and it's the perfect amount of setup for a beat 'em up. It's just set up an atmosphere, and you know why you're going to this next place, and that's all you really need for a beat 'em up.
I'm looking at some of the screenshots of the game right now, and
Yeah.
I definitely am getting that early 80s vibe of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm looking at this, and I can't help but think of, like, Die Hard, John McClane, and everything like that. As far as, like, some of the characters.
The environments also are interactable to a degree. For example, objects like cars or arcade cabinets will shake when you throw enemies on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when you beat up enemies, they will sometimes drop an item, and sometimes that will be behind an object that is in the foreground, so then you wouldn't be able to see it, right? But there's a bright dot right there over the item, so they don't technically disappear for you. You can be like, okay, I need to go get that item. There's lots of little touches just like that that add to just overall polish and good game feel. And I'm just so impressed that it's made by one person.
Does it have any more of those kind of like classic side-scrolling beat-em-up like throwbacks to the gameplay?
I mean, there's so many things that I recognize from Final Fight in particular, just because I grew up with a Super Nintendo and played all the Final Fights. I didn't have a Sega, so I didn't play like Streets of Rage. I'm sure that there's a lot more for people who are super crazy into this genre and the 90s golden years. But like the general feel of your main character, 90s Dreamboat, feels very much like, oh god, what was his name from Final Fight? Cody, was it? I don't remember his name.
Yeah. Remember, winners don't do drugs.
That was in all the arcades too, that screen. I remember that always popping up. That was in Virtua Fighter even. Mm-hmm.
And that was classic.
I guess that was a Sega thing, wasn't it? Now that I think about it.
Oh, there was a huge arcade push in trying to push the anti-drug agenda that was going on at the time.
Anti-drug agenda?
Sure.
Well, agenda is like, I don't know, people use that as a negative word these days.
It came out around the same time as the DARE program, let me say that.
Yeah, I also remember that there was a whole bunch of like recycle things that appeared right before a video game, and I'm like, recycle? Like, I'm not using anything right now that I can recycle. Talk to somebody else. Also, I'm 8. I needed to ask the attendant for a milk crate so I could stand on it so I could see the screen and play the game.
But it's okay, you can recycle that sody pop that you have.
You know, sometimes you just say things that are just like conversational, flaccid. I don't know what it is. It's just, that's all it is. Also, I'm tired.
I am the block of conversation.
It's not even a block. You are the conversational impotence. What do you have to say to that?
I could, come up with something, but it would probably just defeat the purpose of this conversation. So.
Oh, you had. I lobbed that ball right into you, and you didn't even take it. You were on your way. You said I could come up with something, but it'd probably be too hard. That's what you should have said.
I don't know. You just had a really flaccid setup.
Let me get back to the... Okay, listen. Everybody is tuned out by now, so it's fine. Let me talk about the takeover a little bit more. Have a good night, everybody. Goodbye. So gameplay-wise, again, side-scrolling beat 'em up through and through. You fight a bunch of enemies. The enemies have a variety of movesets, so like you can recognize like, okay, this is the girl that always has the bat. This is the guy who is a danger from afar, and so on and so forth. You have a variety of movesets as well yourself, and you have to manage crowd control. That's your big thing. You don't want to get surrounded. You want to be throwing people around. So you have a extremely depthful combo system. You also have a firearm. You have special attacks that use your health. You have rage mode, which makes you invincible, that you build up.
Wow.
You have a super meter that you build up for a screen clear attack. And all of that is built up through avoiding other enemies and their hits, and also hitting enemies with a combo. So it's a risk-reward system.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of intricacies to this.
Absolutely, and I really don't like when it's a beat 'em up that asks you to do more than it gives you the capabilities to do. So when I felt this in the game, when I played the development build, I was so happy. You can run and you can also roll vertically. And I always feel sluggish in beat 'em ups that don't have vertical movement that is as quick as the horizontal movement. I feel like I'm under-equipped for what the game is asking of me. One game in particular on the Switch actually comes to mind, and I haven't played this game since it's been, updated with patches and stuff, but I do want to give it another try. It was called Wolverblade.
Wolverblade?
Wolverblade, yeah.
Okay.
It was like a Norse beat 'em up. So you played as a whole bunch of Vikings, and it was really, really cool aesthetic, and there was lots of lore, and it was supposed to be like historically accurate, even though it was like kind of cartoony for the art direction. But I had issues with it because like vertically I couldn't move as quickly as I could move horizontally, and I felt like I kept getting like caught when I shouldn't have been. And plus like the lore thing was kind of tonally at odds with like what a beat 'em up is, which is like a beat 'em up is very high energy, very fast moving, and you keep going. You would like pick up a tablet or something. I don't even know what it was that you would pick up, or a journal, and it would have pages and pages of things to sit and read. So you would suddenly switch right on and off. And I really wanted to read that shit because it was interesting. But I was like, well, I kind of want to play the beat 'em up right now, though. You know what I mean? So it was.
What
I don't know.
was it a multiplayer or was it single player?
It's both.
Okay. Yeah, because that's really weird, because if you're going to take the time and like kind of delve into that lore aspect of it, you kind of get self-conscious on other people also being there, and somebody's always going to be a little bit impatient. So that's a very strange choice.
Yeah, I mean, if it's somebody like me and my husband, then we're fine. But that's niche. But anyway, we're not talking about Wolverblade right now. I'll go back to that someday. We're talking about the TakeOver. I do have to say that I'm a little bit bummed that there isn't like a victory pose at the end of each stage. Like typically there would be in a lot of beat 'em ups. It would just be like, raising your hand up, being like, yeah, yatta, something like that.
Yo!
But yeah, exactly. That was a good one. What does that remind me of? Oh, that reminded me of Frog from Chrono Trigger when you just did that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really weird that that's not added in there. That you'd think that's kind of like a shoo-in.
Yeah, because I mean, like they've really nailed a lot of the fighting game staples, so I'm surprised they didn't do that. But I mean, whatever, tiny little complaint. To vary up the gameplay, there's also some occasional vehicle sections. So you'll be driving in a car and suddenly shooting everywhere, or you'll be in an airplane shooting missiles. It's very, very Sega-esque. So I feel like people who grew up with Sega are going to love that way more than I do.
It did do what Nintendo didn't.
Yeah. That was my vocal representation of Flaccid. I'm about halfway through the game, but I haven't seen any branching paths yet. Not that the game needs it, but I was a little disappointed at like this one particular scene where it looked like you could go down the stairs or you could go across the bridge. And I was like, oh, cool, branching paths. Like it just kind of visually looked like that. And I tried and I was like, oh, okay, no, it's just set dressing. But then I was like, oh, well, I wish this game did have branching paths because it would add a little bit more replay value. But, again, small complaints.
Yeah.
The screen scrolling could also be a bit faster. Not that it has been an issue so far gameplay-wise. I think that it's actually been designed in a way, or I should say with that in mind, that the screen scrolls a little bit slowly, because I have not run into an enemy or taken damage yet because of the screen, so that's good. I guess it's more of an aesthetic complaint than anything.
Yeah. Does it scroll the screen in sections, or is it like a constant scrolling?
It's not a constant scrolling like a conveyor belt, but it scrolls whenever you move your character over, so it doesn't particularly go in sections. It's neither of the things that you said, Galen. And you can also go backwards in this game, which is great. So yeah, some sides... Go ahead.
With the Donkey Kong Country-esque opening that you were talking about before, did you start the game and immediately go to the left instead of the right?
I did! Of course I did!
And?
Nothing. I was disappointed about that because there was like a car or something in the foreground, and I was like, oh, there's got to be something here. Unless maybe I didn't, hit the right spot. But I thought like there would be a pickup or something. There should be like a lead pipe right there, and then you could start the game out with a lead pipe. Just one of those little things. But yeah, of course I did that. The first thing I do when I start touching a game is I press literally every button to see what the buttons do. Mm-hmm. And then I also go left, go the opposite direction of where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
And like when I first picked up, so there's weapons in this game, like a pipe and a katana, stuff like that. When I first picked it up, I was like, cool. What do all these buttons do with the weapon? And I was like, okay, that's slash. Okay, still the same button. Okay, that's the same button. Then I pressed my kick button and it threw the sword and it went away. And I was like, damn it. So FYI, all kick makes you throw your weapon in this game, but it was okay.
A little bit of trial and error,
Yeah. I would be remiss if I did not mention the music and sound design in this game because the music is a hot bop.
I think that is the new verb I'm going to start using. Or adjective. Descriptor.
Hot?
Adjective. No, hot bop.
Okay, hot bop. That's a good Chicago sentence right there. It's a hot bop.
Mm-hmm. I want to listen to the hot bop when I go to the Korean place and have some mipbap, so I can have some mipbap hot bop.
I think that you mean bibimbap.
Okay, now you're just getting into like scat.
No, that's firstly, no and never. Do not ask me again. Bibimbap is Korean food, and you can have bibimbap and hot pot, which are both a hot bop. You can listen to some K-pop, which is a hot bop, and have your bibimbap.
I'm so glad this joke went exactly the way that I was hoping it would, but nowhere near the expectations of what it could have been. So
I aim to both exceed expectations and disappoint people at the same exact time.
Hot pop, bitty pop.
Back to the hot bops of the take. Exactly. I need to start using the slide whistle that I have queued up for whenever you talk. I'll use that in post.
Oh, okay.
So, the music in this game is done by Lil V, Richie Branson, Epic Game Music, and the amazing Yuzo Koshiro, who has done music for a million games, but of course the Streets of Rage games and also games like Sonic.
Sonic.
Sonic, yeah.
Sonic.
And the title theme is serious AF. It's got like electric guitars, it's metal, and a little bit of pop. Maybe I'll play some of it right here.
Awesome.
Yes, great, amazing.
I'm BB bopping to it. I watched a video of that song just slowed down to about half of the speed.
You love that song.
I loved that song in high school. I tried listening to it again at regular
Bitch, you're
speed,
talking about it now?
No. Well, yeah, because it was on my mind because I just recently heard it again.
Because you listened to it again because you love that song. Should have been playing video games. I can critique you all day.
You do.
It's how I find my sustenance.
It's true. Before we started, you were just like a withered husk, and you're like, oh, it's Galen. What can I ruin today?
Yes.
And, like, your features start to come back in, and yeah.
I was basically a Spriggan until one of my fronds latched onto you around your neck, and I began to suck away your life force.
Mm-hmm. By the end of the episode, you're just like pushing your hair back, and you look like Tom Cruise for some reason. I don't know, just...
What? One of the only moments I wish we did a visual thing just now, because you looked like you not only auditioned for Cats, but you have been acting in it for years. Also, Tom Cruise, a pure psychopath. I will never turn into him. He's digitally de-aged in his movies right now. Did you know that he's that vain?
Really?
Yes.
Is he really? That is so... I actually believe that. I 100% believe that.
Even in the film that he did recently with The Mummy, he
The Mummy?
Yeah, The Mummy. He was
film
called
with the Mummy that he did with the Mummy called The
Shut
Mummy.
up! Shut up! You're ruining my life. The other guy that was in it, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde guy, he referred to Tom
that
Cruise
Gerard
as a
Butler?
young man.
Oh, jeez.
I know, Tom Cruise is like 60.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's always dating a girl who's like 31. So anyway, we're talking about music in the takeover. There is also a Eurobeat track in the car level that got me so excited.
Excellent.
I had to pause the game, stand up, and do some para. That's how excited I was about Eurobeat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm that bitch.
Yes, I know.
The para days of Oni Dino, they go deep. The still waters are very deep.
I think I still have those videos that you sent when you tried to get me to do para with you.
And you were uncoordinated and you couldn't do it. It's literally the worst dancing ever.
And the only reason I ever had any interest because I came across an arcade game at a convention that had it.
Yes. A discussion for another time.
Yes. Moving on. So back to Eurobeat.
Eurobeat in the takeover is the best thing I've ever had in my life.
So you approve of the Euro beat 'em up?
Galen, that's the first good thing you've said on this podcast today.
You know what? Quality over quantity.
You know what? You should duck out right now and end on a high note.
Goodbye, folks. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
You know what? Know what? What? My mouth is just moving at different speeds than my mouth is running at 60 frames per second, but I think my rest of my face is running at 30 frames. Let's move.
So you're talking about the music in the takeover?
Anyway, let me just end this bit already. Sound design is really great. It's so important to have satisfying, crunchy sounds when you hit enemies, and it's totally got that. I wish there was a sound mixer, though, because I think that the voices in battle are a little too low for my taste, a little too low in the cutscenes as well. But that's also just me wanting my voices to be a lot higher. The voice talent is also apparently pretty good. I'm not super familiar with them, but there is a person from Team 4-Star on there, and I know that, Galen, you like Team
nice.
4-Star?
Yeah. Lanny Pator...
Takahata 101, I think.
Ah, okay. So he's the guy who does the voice of, like, Nappa and everyone like that. So
That's amazing.
he is one of the funniest ones on there.
So the takeover is a great game for solo or local co-op, and it feels really good. You got lots of combos, lots of mobility, got lots of replay value. I didn't even mention there's like 3 different characters that you can play as. There's a secret character you can play as. Lots of replay value. Everybody do check out this game because this is one of the games giving a renaissance to beat 'em ups, side-scrolling beat 'em ups in 2020.
Excellent. 7 out of 10. Not enough Europop.
That's not what I said at all. None of that. Galen just says words.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's time for you to say more words, regrettably. Why don't you tell me what's going on in Animal Crossing, Galen?
Yeah, so new month this month, meaning new
Yep.
stuff yeah, I know. Very descriptive, huh? Trust me, you never would have been able to tell beforehand. So there is a bunch of new stuff that is coming to Animal Crossing. They alluded to it previously, but we now have weddings. What you do is you talk to the creepy stalker photo guy in one of the islands, and he lets you take photography of these 2 sheep, I think they are, who are coming in just wanting to do wedding photo recreations. And you can get a bunch of new items and everything like that for it. So, very straightforward.
Now your villagers can be just as unhappy as the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But beyond that, they also have new fish that are up. Sharks are finally a thing, so you can now catch them. This is the first time in the Western Hemisphere that you could have actually done that. So, other than that, it's a couple of new things, and yeah, it's Animal Crossing. So,
Are you still playing it daily?
Yeah, I have completely stopped on a lot of my normal routines for it. There's no point for me to dig up the fossils because I have them all. There's really no reason for me to mine all of my rocks because I'm literally full up on all of my materials. So
Full of rocks.
Yeah. I'm literally just going around and checking to see if there's anything new I can buy for the day, and that's about it. So, but it's still a good, 10, 15-minute distraction.
Do you still do the stock market?
I do not. I'm sitting pretty on, I think, just under 5 million bells, and that is literally all that I would ever need to buy anything in the game, so...
Did you use an exploit? You cheating bitch?
I didn't. I have not time traveled once, and I'm very proud to say that, because I believe that the time aspect of the game is what's really kind of holding me back from doing anything.
Expand on that. What does that mean? Are you the Silver Surfer?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, at this point, there's not really much more I can do in the game. I'm doing it just more for the tradition of playing it, and on the off chance that something new does come along. Oh, one other thing that they did add to the game that I forgot is the aspect of seasonal summer shells. And they are shells that you can find along the beach that look like a little bit of a different color. And there are certain craftable recipes. Like, you can now have one of your rooms in your house have an underwater theme to it. So, my mermaid-loving wife was very happy about that.
Yeah. She's part fish.
Yeah. What?
The mermaid.
Yeah.
I could have said she's part Cher. And you're Bob Hoskins. This is a very layered joke and also a gay joke, probably.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little lost here. Okay.
Does he love me? I wanna know.
Not bad. 7 out of 10 needs more Eurobeat. There are still some things that keep me coming back to Animal Crossing even after all this time, but the wonder of initially getting together with a group of friends and discovering everything that the game has to hold has definitely worn off. I don't think I have played with anybody on the game in, probably about a month now, so...
Wow, you don't just, go and visit another island and just go vibe with people, or...?
It doesn't work that way. A lot of the time, they have to actually open up their gates, so you have to... Yeah, you have to be in the mindset of, I want to receive people to come over, but then there's that thing of, I need to want to go to an island, they want to be able to receive somebody, and they want to be playing the game at the same time. There's a lot of things that have to line up to kind of make that work, for it to be spontaneous of, hey, I'm just going to come for a quick visit, hope you don't mind.
You should join some Discords and stuff like that, or reach out to our listeners and set something up. And sometimes people just be like, yo, I'm having people over my island, come over and hit me in the head with a bug net. Yeah,
maybe I'll do that. Tell you what, if any of you guys are playing Animal Crossing, go ahead and send me your friend code for the Switch, and we'll have an Animal Crossing party.
How can they contact you, Galen?
Best way would be on Twitter. Just shoot me your code at Mobius087.
There it is. So then just a quick update for me on Bug Fables, which is the game I praised last week.
Mm-hmm.
Still really liking it. Not super crazy loving it, but just really liking it, enjoying it. Full of charm, that game.
Mm-hmm. Is it successfully scratching that Paper Mario itch?
It is, and I have not gotten a paper cut yet.
Good.
It's really nice knowing that there's going to be a Paper Mario coming out next month, and even if that is not classic Paper Mario, we still got Paper Mario with Bug Fables this year, and it was good. Something that has been sort of still in the back of my mind with this game is something I brought up last week, where I was mentioning the dialogue boxes and like, well, what if there was a character portrait or a name or something like that? I am now like actually doubly down on that. I really wish there were a name and a like type of bug that they are, because like I don't know if I'm the average person here or not, but I can't tell bugs apart from each other. I can tell a beetle is different from something else because they're fatter and they have like a bigger exoskeleton, but like I don't know shit about bugs, man. So, and I feel like some of the writing actually does play into the like favor of what kind of bug they are. So it would be really cool if they were like, okay, this is so-and-so, the pill bug, in their dialogue box, just so I know not only who is talking, but also what kind of bug they are. So if they're making some sort of like pill bug joke or like silk, what are those bugs that spin silk? Silk bug, are they called? I don't even know.
Silkworms?
Silkworm, yeah. So, if they're making a joke about that, then, it would land way better with me. Yeah. So this game is really good, really good. It's just good enough to make me wish it were just a tad bit better, kind of thing. But I still highly recommend it.
Yeah. I've actually been seeing a lot of advertisements and things like that for Bug Fables lately. I even saw... Yeah, I saw the game come up in one of my news feeds when I was on the Switch one day. So, yeah. Nice. I'm kind of seeing that thing everywhere.
Your Nintendo Switch is listening to me, like all Nintendo Switches should do.
Either that or it just has an infestation.
I also wish that the different kingdoms had like very different kinds of bugs in them, because I've been to several towns now. I'm probably halfway through the game, and there's always these different kinds of bugs there that I think I've seen in other towns. So I wish it would be like, okay, this is definitely the Beetle Kingdom. This is definitely the Wasp Kingdom. And like story-wise, they do have that, but like lots of bugs are still visiting. I would like it to be like, okay, the ants are visiting, the beetle or cockroach town, but they stand out because they are beetles or cockroaches. Or whatever, backwards that I said. I said? I am going to recharge my batteries by turning it over to you. Galen, distract me while you talk about Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yep. It's actually Yu-Gi-Oh. So. Okay.
Tell me about Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, so I have needed a bit of a distraction. Again, this is a week that I have been not had a chance to actually sit down and play a lot of games, so I dusted off my old copy of Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist for the Switch. This is a game that came out in the States last year. It was out earlier before that, but this is just it's a yearly Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that follows the card game. This particular version actually branches out to all of the different anime TV arcs that they have. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, the one where they're playing on motorcycles. I don't know. But yeah, if you're a fan of the actual card game itself, it's a good temporary fix for you, which I used to play when I was in high school. So yeah, sometimes I just like to turn my brain off but still have it like collect itself or like still be active at the same time.
How embarrassing.
Actually, this is going to sound really weird, but I find that playing the game is a little humbling in a lot of ways. You're giving me a weird face. I know.
I'm so excited to see where this is going. Please go on.
So a lot of games kind of give you this the sensation of, yeah, okay, you're the hero. You need to get everything down, and if you lose or you fail a mission or anything like that, that's your fault because you did something wrong, or it's because of bad gameplay mechanics. What I've always appreciated in card games is that there's this element that, yeah, sometimes you just get a bad hand and there's not much you can do about it. So yeah, you'll end up losing the game, but it's okay because it's very quick to pick up right again and go straight into the next one, and there's no overall like detriment to it. It's just one of those things where when I play it, it really reminds me to put things in a perspective of, hey, it's just a game. Yeah, you lost. Go ahead and play it again.
Oh, that's good. That is a really positive outcome for something like that. For me, like the luck of the draw kind of things with like roguelikes or card games, instead of having that feeling of like, it's just a game, no problem, I'm always like, what am I doing with my time? I wasted it. I didn't make any progress.
Well, it's a little bit different because with roguelike games, like, oh god, what's the game that I tried to show you last year?
Legacy.
I think it was Rogue Legacy, yeah. With games like that, yes, it is random, but it still gives you a base set of skills. So there's still an overall like sensation of growth within your character and you playing as an actual person.
Yeah,
so
the progression system is like super critical for me when I play any kind of roguelite.
Mm-hmm. Whereas in a card game, yeah, okay, you can lose because you got a bad hand, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your skills in the moment are bad in any sense. And it also gives you more inspiration of, oh, hey, that was a really cool thing the computer did. Maybe I'll go back and edit my own deck to try that skill myself.
Yeah, it's this thing in game development called extrinsic and intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember because it's been a while since I've read up on it. Can't remember which is which, but one is basically like kind of the difference between getting better at a card game and learning things, yourself versus playing a card game. That would be
intrinsic.
Oh, thank you. You do know this. Thank you.
Yeah, so intrinsic is the idea that the skills that you are obtaining are skills that there are ways for you to get better at the game, as opposed to extrinsic, which is your characters becoming stronger, so it is easier for you to play at the game.
And I very much like extrinsic games. I really like number go up. I like big
and I
number.
get that. Yeah, there definitely is a progression with that.
Yeah, and I mean, I did enjoy my share of intrinsic games. Like Zelda is an intrinsic game. Puzzle games are intrinsic, and fighting games are intrinsic. So,
Dark Souls, racing games, sports games to some extent, yeah.
Well, not the modern sports games. You gotta have experience bars and level up so that way you can sell loot boxes and currency so that way you can exploit the FOMO.
Mm-hmm. Xbox exploit.
We can workshop that.
Mm-hmm.
And we can make it better.
Like they're going to make the next Madden 2021 so much better on the Xbox X. I don't even know what it's called anymore.
Me too. I had the same issue.
Other than that, yeah, I've just been playing a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! And trying that out. I've got It's weird because I jumped back into the game and I had to remember what kind of a deck I had been building last time. And I had to remember exactly like, what the hell am I doing with this thing? How does it work?
That's always hard.
So I found out that I was playing some sort of Gravekeeper deck that the entire idea is to get this one card out and basically lock down the other guy while I build up my own stuff. So... which I've never built before, ever. I have no idea what inspired me to do that.
Knowing your personality, I don't know if that's the build for you, Galen.
Yeah, probably not.
But I appreciate you giving it a try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really had to deal with the cards that were dealt to me, pun slightly intended. The game does have a progression system in it, and every time you win or even when you lose, you get points that you can use to buy more cards within the game, and they come when your random card packs and then different characters that you can buy cards from, and each character has a different pool of cards that you can get from. No microtransactions. This is purely how the game is set. So
yeah
but yeah, I think it was just like going through there and it's like, okay, this is the most I can do with what I've been able to open up so far.
From what I recall, this is kind of like a re-release with like all of the extra content in it, and it is apparently like a staggering amount of content in the Switch version.
Oh yeah, if I remember correctly, it's like over 9,000 different cards. They range from like the first sets that were coming out to the latest. They have a bunch of different rule variations, which is big because they have notoriously banned and unbanned cards throughout the history of the game. So being able to choose which rules you want to play by, that means that you can, if you're a fan of the classic show, you can have 3 copies of Monster Reborn in your deck, which has been banned since like that show was halfway through its first season. So, but you could do that now if you wanted to, which I kind of appreciate. I like.
This is like a foreign language to me, like everything.
Because the game is so intrinsically linked to the show, sometimes there is that nostalgic element of if there was a particular show that you liked more than others, you can replay some of the battles by building a deck similar to what they played in the show.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, there's a bit of a nostalgic element to it. I can't remember if you can create your own character, but I know you can also play as basically all the characters in the show. So, yeah.
This is kind of reminding me, I played this game at E3 last year, just before it had come out, and I was there for Nintendo Everything, and we were getting footage to capture to upload on our YouTube. And I set up my capture card and everything like that, and the guy doing the demo with me, he was like, okay, so are you familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! And do you know how to play this battle out? And I was like, gonna be honest with you, no clue, bro. Like, none. And also, couldn't possibly care less.
Yeah.
So he was basically telling me, like, okay, now do this. Okay, now do that. Okay, now do this. And you're going to do this because of all these things. And I was like, like, don't know. Like, just, okay, bro. And I just took down a bunch of notes and hopefully did some good gameplay, and we put it up on YouTube.
All right, so I gotta know, did you do your synchro summons?
So many. I did so many, yeah.
Yeah, personally, I'm more of a fusion guy myself, but synchro's a good way to go. Really, it's all about link summons nowadays, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm gotta be honest here. I'm more old school, so I do my synchro summoning anytime that I can. Like, just every day. Like, I wake up and I do it.
That's why...
Sometimes I do it in my sleep.
And that's why you fell right into my trap card.
Yeah, filibuster, so...
Oni, save me from myself and please explain to me what a Xenoblade is.
Well, Galen, there's no saving you, but I will talk about Xenoblade.
All right.
And you'd know if you bought this damn game, but you didn't buy it because you are a liar. We talked about this many months ago.
I said I would get the game when it came out. That's like next year, right?
Hate you. So I have been playing some Xenoblade this week. Not too much, so I'm not going to go into it very much. I will have a much bigger pool of things to talk about next week. But I wanted to go over some of the updates for this Definitive Edition. This came out kind of last week, like maybe about 6 days or 7 days or something ago. I got mine a little bit later just because of, things going on. The North American collector's edition is great. I'm not big on collector's editions, but this came with an art book, and that's all you need to sell me on a collector's edition. It's a nice hardcover and a nice little package, which is like the one positive that the North American version has over the European or Japanese versions. And the art book is great, so beautiful. I looked through about half of it before I was like, okay, I'm going to play the game, and then
is it pretty?
Look through. Oh, it's so pretty. Like, great shape of the art book, great glossy pages, great cardstock, lots of not promo stuff. What am I saying here? Lots of sketches and ideas and things like that. There's some promo art in there, but it's not too much. I really hate when an art book is just filled with promo art, like stuff that we've seen before. And I want to see, like, what were the artists creating, and like what were like some ideas that never came about or something like that. And this is definitely full of it.
Nice. Was there anything in the art book that really kind of like surprised you that you came across? Like, oh, why did they not use this design? This is so cool, or anything like that?
Not so far, but that's also why I wanted to play the game first. Well, I should say ahead of time, because it's been a good 7 years since I've played the original Xenoblade. So I was like, let me play the definitive edition, then I'll start looking through the art book a little bit more as I go through areas, and like the art book is segmented out through different areas and different characters.
Awesome. So, how is the game that you haven't played for 7 years?
It's pretty good. Xenoblade's pretty good. Okay, you should buy this game. I don't know what voice is that? Is that Keanu Reeves?
No.
I don't know what that voice was. Where'd it go?
I don't know. But I did see your Twitter post about your preferred camera angles in the game. So
oh yes,
good on you.
Lots of camera options in this game, which is great. Nowhere near the amount as Xenoblade X on the Wii U. That game, you could customize everything for the camera, everything for the HUD. It was amazing. It was like a PC game.
Okay.
And some PC games don't have that amount of customization too. But anyway, that's Xenoblade X on the Wii U.
Do you feel like the removal of those camera features hinders or helps?
Well, it's not a removal. So X is the only one that had that many camera features. Xenoblade 2 didn't have that many features. Xenoblade Definitive Edition seems to have a little bit more or the same amount as regular Xenoblade 2. Are you following me? God, this is so many Xenoblades.
I think I am, yeah.
So anyway, Xenoblade on the Switch is great. Lots of quality of life updates. Let's first talk about the visuals, just because, that's kind of the most apparent thing.
Yeah.
So character faces have all been completely remodeled for the main characters and important characters. Hands as well have been remodeled. The bodies are mostly the same. I think that's because they have such a huge expansion of clothing and different armor sets for characters. So they would have to completely remodel all of those armor sets as well if they were to touch the bodies. So that's why, it's just hands and faces. But it looks surprisingly good, especially the faces. I'm so glad that they changed the faces, because they always looked kind of aesthetically ugly to me. I know that might be a little bit of a weird thing to say, because I think some players really do like the old faces, but not for me. There were so many scenes where the emotion in the character was supposed to hit with the player, and I just was like, oh god, that face looks awful. The face just looked like a texture. It didn't even look like a modeled face to me. So I am all for this update. There's lots of little small effects that really add to the beauty of it. There's like sharpening and motion blur on certain character movements, which is great. Motion blur on a camera when you turn the camera is f***ing awful. It is the worst thing in video games. As soon as motion blur was being discovered in like PS3 360 and even a little bit in the PS4 era, like with Final Fantasy Type 0, the camera motion blur was so bad that I couldn't play that game, and I want to play that game.
More blur.
So bad. So anyway, they've just used the motion blur on characters, and I think that like they've maybe even used it in like corners of the screen or something when running or moving or something like that. I remember Xenoblade X on the Wii U definitely did that too. Just really smart uses of small effects that add to the overall picture. Especially something that I love visually that I didn't expect to care about at all is the realistic
butts.
Reflections. Oh, well, no. The butts weren't remodeled, Galen, sadly. But the realistic reflections on large bodies of water. So in Colony 9, I believe it is. I get 6 and 9 confused all the time. In Colony 9...
Nice.
Which is where you start off in the game, there's a bunch of water, and you're going to be swimming through it to go to different areas. And it's so beautiful. It reflects like what you're seeing, off of the above water, below water. And it makes it so nice when you're running around that just to look at it. I remember just the old Wii game, it was kind of ugly with that. And this Switch version just looks so much more aesthetically pleasing. I'm just so happy with it.
The game looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. It is only running at a max of 720p in docked mode, but they do have a lot of effects happening, so you can't really tell that too much, at least not for me. I'm not a huge graphics person. I'm more of
even when it's docked, it's only in 720p?
Yeah, and it's got a dynamic resolution scaler to it as well, so even in docked mode...
Okay.
720p at max, and even in docked mode, it can drop to 500 something. So a lot of people, just numbers wise, have been critical of that, and I understand that, but actually because of all of the visual effects that are going on, I don't notice it that much. I should say I don't notice it at all, really, and I'm really pleased with my visual experience with the game. But this also does sort of touch on how I really do wish that Nintendo would, and this goes back to the pricing thing, I wish that they would put out more capable hardware, more RAM, more dedicated CPU. These are words I don't know. See, this is me not really knowing and not really caring all that much, but just something to give the developers a little bit more wiggle room so that way they could make things look just a little bit more better. Oh, geez, words. It's late, okay? It's late. We're recording late. There's so many other things happening visually in this game that I'm really pleased with, but overall, just really great for me. Getting into sort of the gameplay updates and quality of life features, I mentioned running. There is an auto run button, which is something that I was really hoping for when we were talking about this. One of our listeners wrote into us and asked, what quality of life features we want in the game. And I got one of the two big ones that I wanted. Auto run and an actual run button. We didn't get the run button, which I think makes sense because otherwise you'd be able to jump farther distances and then that would screw up the level design. But auto run, super good.
Still, it makes the majority of the traversal you'll be doing faster, so that's good.
If you're running long stretches and you want to look at your map, you can pull up your map and have your character auto run at the same time, so that way you can sort of multitask and you don't have to just kind of hold the stick in one direction, because this is a big game. This is not only long but big. Game.
Just the way you like it.
But we're talking about Xenoblade here. The quality of life features for the quests are also really, really good. It makes it so much faster to find people.
I was about to say, Nintendo was really kind of focusing on that and touting that as one of the improvements when they were talking about what made this Definitive Edition so much more special.
Definitive. Yes. Finding people, seeing what items they have to trade, when they are active and where they're active at, that was all stuff that I remember going to a wiki for when I was playing the Wii game. And in this, you can do it all in the game and in the menus, which is great. They even have highlights for finding enemies that you need a specific drop for in a quest. I'm pretty sure that none of this stuff existed in the original Wii game, because I have not had to go to a wiki at all.
Excellent.
I'm still, playing the game and getting a feel for it, but I am really liking the new arrangements that they've done to the music. It adds kind of this new or refreshing feel that is working in tandem with the refreshing visuals as well. So it still feels like kind of a newish game to me. Okay. And I'm overall pretty surprised with how well the staging and cinematography holds up. There's a lot of cutscenes in this game. It's a very story-heavy game, which is great. It's got a really good story. Character faces have been remodeled and their facial animations have been redone as well. So there's all of these moments that really land that I feel like were kind of there on the Wii. Mm-hmm. Something, though, that I am surprised about is, after having played Xenoblade Cross on the Wii U and Xenoblade 2 on the Switch now, going back to the original Xenoblade's battle system, I I'm finding this battle system to be a little bit limited or a little bit boring compared to the other ones. I'm surprised that I prefer Xenoblade Cross and Xenoblade 2's battle systems to this first Xenoblade game. I think also part of it is that the party dynamic is limited in this game. You get more characters later on and you can mix and match, what your party dynamic is, and you can have characters like Rhine be an attacker instead of a tank. But it takes a while to get there, and by that time you might have put like skill points into different skills. So I do find the battle system to be a little bit limiting when compared against its older siblings, but I'm still enjoying it.
Sounds like this is definitely something that's going to be I don't know, did you get this digital or cartridge based?
I got it cartridge because it was the collector's edition with the art book.
Well, this definitely sounds like it's going to be something that is in your Switch for quite some time.
Definitely. I'll be talking about it more next week.
Excellent.
And hopefully you will be too, because you'll buy the game. Or maybe you won't, and prove that you're a liar once again.
Well, we both know that I'm not a real gamer, so...
And I'm giving you the way to the real gamer, and you never walk that path. And here I am, walking this lonely road, the only one that I've ever known. It's only me. I walk alone. Why aren't you singing along?
Because I'm not acknowledging that I know what song you're making reference to, because all of my high school days are a complete mental block on me. Those were dark days. Those were dark, dark days.
High school sucked. Let's talk about the news. Pokemon's coming out next week.
That's a game.
Galen, I am the Jon Snow of Pokemon. I know nothing. Why don't you tell me what is going on?
Well, we do have some new expansions that are coming out on the 17th, so those are just around the corner.
The Isle of Summer.
You've got the Isle of Armor. You also have my dog, who's barking and doing all the barking. There he goes again. Yeah, he's really excited about Pokemon, so...
I remember we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What new stuff did we hear about it this week, though?
So this week they talked a little bit about some of the new features. Tutor moves are coming back, which is where you can take some certain Pokemon and you get an elemental move that is taught to them that is like top tier, but there are a lot of criteria that go into what they need to do in order to learn it. Most of the time it's like your starters are the ones that you normally teach this move to. So we know for a fact there is a Burning Jealousy fire type move, as well as a Grassy Glide grass type move.
I literally have no idea what.
It's just new moves that are being added.
That's amazing.
What has me interested is they have a new mechanic called the Cram-O-Matic, which is where you put 4 different items into this device and it gives you an item in return. So you're like combining all of these items around. They say that you can receive a variety of different things, including, stat boosts, Pokeballs, and they say even some combinations might produce rare items, which, seeing the way that they have dealt with Pokemon in the past, I'm really curious if we're going to see some new forms or some new sort of Pokemon branch out from this.
It's a cooking mechanic.
Well, and that is Max Soup, which is the cooking mechanic, so...
Oh, I know Max. He's very nice.
But other than that, they are also bringing some new Pokemon back to the game.
Is Cyndaquil back?
Cyndaquil is not back from what I'm seeing. He might be. He might
what about
be one of the
Clefable?
ones thrown in there. Nope. You do have Kangaskhan. You do have Sandile.
How about Harkspunk?
Luxray is actually in there, which was one of my main in one of the whichever game that came from.
Is Donkey Blong back?
Yes. Give me another one.
Fuck it.
Now that one was already in the game.
I literally can't think of anything except for filthy names.
Bucket is just a, personified version of Randy Pitchford.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that he's what came out the Crime-O-Matic.
But no, I'm really interested to see if they do anything with this new feature, or if it's just going to be you can get some new items that were a little bit harder to get previously.
Nope, it's that. It's nothing cool.
It's just that? Yeah, okay.
So what else? What else is happening with the Island of Summer? Nothing? Is that it?
Not from what I've been able to tell so far. They did come out with a new video that kind of showcased some of the things, and a lot of it.
Headache. I watched it. I'm sorry to be so cynical about this, but I watched it. I was like, I don't know what I'm seeing. Like, it was just so many flashes of like, and this, and that, and this. Oh, okay. Wait, no, I remembered a thing. They're doing new versions of the original legendaries from the first generation.
That is coming out with the second.
Oh, it is?
So
that was...
You're talking about the new Zapdos, the new Articuno, Moltres,
the
those
Chocobo,
ones, right?
The Chocobo, yes.
Yeah, so that is going to be one of the big things for the second expansion that they're coming out with.
Oh, well, that's in like November, December.
Yeah, that's later this year. So.
I want my Chocobo. All right, let's move on to this. Yeah. So this is the segment of the podcast where we recommend some shit on the internet. There's lots of shit.
There is also some very positive stuff on there too.
There is, and I should have started it out like that because we have a collective additional DLC to recommend that I forgot about. So we are recommending collectively the link card for Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great resource for showing you where funds are needed, where funds are currently sufficient. Some great learning material in other languages. So if you have friends who live outside of the States and they need to know, what's going on, and, they need to get some information that's not through only their media, this is a great link. So do check this out. We'll put a link in the description. And then for our personal recommendations, this week I am recommending one of our lovely listeners. This is actually the person that won the Wonderful 101 remastered code giveaway that we did a couple weeks ago. This user's name is Firebrant, and he does a bunch of streaming to raise money. He does charity streams, raising money for children's hospitals. And I think that that's super amazing. That's super wonderful. So
absolutely,
I just want to send a little support his way. So I'll leave links in the description for his link tree. He streams on Twitch, and then he has his archive. God, I can't think of words. It's late. His archive is on YouTube, and he plays lots of exciting games. He's been playing through Xenoblade recently. He even did one with the Wonderful 101 code that we sent him. So please do check him out. Please do consider donating, even $1, even $5. Same thing to Black Lives Matter. Even $1 helps if everybody is throwing in just a couple of spare change.
Absolutely.
A couple of spare change. Galen, what's wrong with me? What are you recommending?
Well, not to get a little serious here, but ever since everything started to happen this week, I have been doing a little bit of self-reflecting and soul-searching within myself as to what my role has been with the current events. During my just reading up and trying to educate myself, I came across somebody named Jane Elliott. Now, Jane Elliott was an elementary school teacher back in the 1960s who decided to, after, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, decided to go ahead and run a little experiment a social experiment with her students to try to educate them on what it felt like for just to be subjugated to racism. She essentially broke up the students and these are just elementary school kids, mind you. She broke them into two groups of basically brown-eyed students and blue-eyed students, or other, and treated them in not like a racial way, but with the kind of stigmas that would come along with racism. And this is, of course, a 1960s era, so this is an all pre-segregated, all white class. A lot of them just had no idea how to handle any of that. She has since then gone on to take her experiment to new levels with older age groups. One of the links that I have is actually a BBC article that I think this was 2016. I might be getting my dates wrong with that. That's okay. But essentially, it was a BBC article where she tried this experiment out with 30 to 40, English London residents. And they ranged from every kind of ethnic range and age around that time. And it was just very eye-opening to see, okay, you see these blue-eyed people? They're racist as hell. All you brown-eyed people, we want you to let them know what it feels like. And the entire experiment became this really weird thing where the people who were being accused of being racist had to defend themselves and say, hey, no, I'm not racist, and here's why. But the accusation of them being called racist was based off of a racist trait. It was very, standing back and looking at this objectively on what she was trying to accomplish, I recognized it made me question some things within myself, and it was very eye-opening.
Great.
Highly recommend checking her out if you do want to educate yourself. If you want a Cliff Noted version, she did recently do an interview with Jimmy Fallon, where fortunately Jimmy Fallon doesn't talk a whole lot during it, but she did also explain and summarize kind of like the goal and the objectives of her, and I'll have that link down below as well.
Nice. Now let's hear from one of our lovely listeners in our boppiest segment of the show.
Bit boppiest.
Our hot bop segment of the show is the listener mail.
Listener mail.
If you would like to be hot to trot and send us in a hot bop of an email.
You're going more, northeastern. You're going more like New Jersey with us.
Listen, I'm great at doing accents. So don't tell me anything. I'm from Philadelphia.
Send your emails to NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
You can send your emails to NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
Was that Irish?
It
Scottish?
was perfect Irish, okay? No, it was Australian, mate. Also, just letting everyone know. Definitely intentionally doing very bad accents right now. Definitely.
I want to apologize for everyone.
No. I'm leaving it in.
I'm especially apologizing for Juan, our lovely listener, who wrote into us.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Juan, okay?
So, Juan writes into us, hey, I'm a big fan of Hotel Dusk and Famicom Tantei Club.
Tantei.
And it's frustrating. Tantei, sorry.
Be a proper Nihonjin.
Yeah, go men. And it's frustrating to see that they aren't more popular. What could Nintendo do to make them commercially viable in America in the way that occurred with Fire Emblem? That is, Fire Emblem was arguably even smaller than Hotel Dusk when it first came to America, but now it's one of the AAA franchises of Nintendo outside of Japan. It all started with Smash Bros. Melee, with which the series became widely known, and then Fire Emblem Awakening, which became the first massive hit outside the series outside of Japan. Is it possible to replicate what Nintendo did with Fire Emblem with its point-and-click adventure games? Because I'd love to see a third Hotel Dusk and the soon-to-be-released remake of Famicom Tantei Club in America. Heck, if it were up to me, I would love to see Shin Onigashima. Juan, you are throwing me for a curveball this episode.
I couldn't wait. I was waiting all week for Galen to get to say these Japanese names. Go ahead, give it another try, Galen.
Shin Onigashima and Hajimari no Mori in English as well.
Juan, thank you so much for writing in.
Yes, thank you, Juan, for that lovely email that I articulated so well.
Shin Onegaishimasu. I'm sorry I make fun of you all the time, but it's the only way that I live. Juan, thank you for writing into us. Very well written email and awesome asking about these properties. We never hear about these properties at all.
No, not at all. I actually had to look up Hotel Dusk, and then when I saw it, it clicked on me what this game was.
Yeah, Hotel Dusk is totally a game for you, Galen.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Hotel Dusk and the Famicom Tantei Club are very similar to each other, and they're this film noir / detective-esque style game, very reminiscent of the Phoenix Wright series as well.
Yeah.
So
I would say that Famicom Tantei Club, which there's a remake. Juan mentioned it, right? Yeah. Remake coming.
He mentioned it. I butchered it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just when Galen talks, it's just one ear out the other. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The remake is coming to Japan, but there's no overseas localization confirmed. By the way, just going to throw a little speculation on that. I speculate that it will be localized for the West. I think that this is the perfect opportunity for them to give a try. Visual novels have been gaining in popularity, though they are still very niche. They are becoming more popular.
Yeah.
But let's tell our listeners a bit what is Hotel Dusk and what is Famicom Tantei Club. Galen, you touched on it a little bit, saying that they're similar to Phoenix Wright. What else would you say about these games?
I would say, from what I can see, they are a bit of a combination between, especially Hotel Dusk. I didn't look at the Famicom Tantei Club all too closely. But Hotel Dusk seems to be I almost want to say a cross between Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright, where it's a lot of you going into locations, you're exploring around, you're solving a number of puzzles, and there's this narrative that kind of goes in the background with it. There's also a graphic, a comic book-esque art style that goes along with it, with how the characters are drawn and how everything is portrayed.
It really had a great art direction and gameplay hook as well, because you were walking around. It was a DS game. You were walking around and you held the DS sideways. In 3D environments, you'd be walking around, and then on the other screen, you would draw what was going on.
Yeah.
And it just really had a unique twist on this, detective game structure.
Point and click genre,
before.
yeah.
Yeah. So that really helped it stand out. And to sort of go right into Juan's question about is it possible to replicate what Nintendo did, and how can they make these properties popular? It's you need to have something really unique about the look and about the gameplay. So you need to, if you don't have unique characters in particular, then you need to have a unique art style that makes people think, oh, I want to be playing that game. For example, Persona 5, right? The menus are so highly stylized that just interacting with them, people love it so much that they've, created a like a phone app to make your phone be like Persona 5, right? It needs to have that kind of addictive hook to it, that sort of appeal. And I think Hotel Dusk already nails it, so I would love to see Nintendo bring that back.
There also has to be some sort of like meta mystery if you want to kind of replicate the spontaneous nature of success that they came with on Fire Emblem. Of course, with them coming out on Smash Bros, that was the first time the US had like any big sort of exposure. Yes, thank you. Exposure to both those characters and that entire franchise. Yeah. But also, they did it in a crossover game. So you had people who were being exposed to this character for the first time and asking themselves, who are these guys with the swords? And also, it's a fighting game, which if you're a young, middle schooler / high schooler kid who's playing this and going, hey, swords are cool. Oh, how wrong were we? Oh, no.
Speak for yourself. You were the most embarrassing.
Hey, I liked playing as Samus because I could pretend to do Kamehamehas.
You always called it that, too.
Yeah, I did. I was really sad. But no, I mean, here's this mysterious character. The moveset, Marth, even to this day, is very widely played because of the speed of the character itself. They made the involvement of the crossover very interesting. When they finally brought the series out to the West, people made that connection and they felt like they discover it. Oh, wait, Fire Emblem. I heard about this. This is that, the game that Martha's from in Melee.
Right.
Maybe I'll give this a try.
And, part of that appeal, too, was, like, going through all of the trophies that they had in the Smash Bros. Games. That's actually how, I think that was the first exposure for me to Famicom Tantei Club, because there was a trophy in Super Smash Bros. Melee for, I think her name was Ayumi Tachibana, and I was like, what is this character? Famicom Tantei Club, what is this? And, that's how kids with too much time on their hands would get interested in something. Nowadays we have phones and like the internet and everything like that, so it's maybe a little bit less of an outlet for people to just like kind of look at things. But where am I going with this? Oh, crossovers. Like, how could we cross over some of these characters into appropriate properties, exposing people to these characters, getting them sort of prepped for the future games that would maybe come out of the proper series? Like, how could a character in Famicom Tantei Club cross over? It would have to come out in something Nintendo related. Like, what would be appropriate for it? Not Smash Bros, unfortunately.
I'm not entirely sure. So, because I'm trying to think of what other elements, like when you think of point and click adventures and the games that have really kind of, struck out in that genre, from a popularity standpoint.
By the way,
this is
strike
no commentary.
Out means to not do well.
Well, no, struck out and like struck out on their own in their own name. So
I think you're looking for a different idiom, Galen, but you always say strike out, and I always think like baseball strikeout.
So
stood out, maybe. Stood out, I think is what...
Okay, stood out.
I think that you're combining two idioms to make a wrong.
You're okay, nitpicking, whatever.
Nitpicking, or am I just trying to get our audience to understand what you're saying?
Hey, they've listened this far into the podcast. They know that's a lost cause already, so...
Fair. Fair.
Anyway, when I think about games that have really stood out in the point-and-click genre, I think of games like Monkey Island, like, Phoenix Wright, and other franchises that they're, in today's day and age, they are very memeable to a lot of extent.
Yeah, actually, you're right, because something like that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is totally a method of marketing for this.
Yeah, and I think if Nintendo wanted to try to replicate it, because you couldn't put, the main character from Hotel Dusk into a Smash Bros. Game nowadays. It
not
just
as a
wouldn't
fighter, yeah.
have the same effect. Yeah. So I think you have to approach this from a different way. And I think embracing that meme culture of it, or at least trying to do something and support it that way, you have a higher chance of growing attention in it. And that's when you bring over like a sequel or bring over the localized version of the other one. Famicom Tantei Club. So,
but you know, in like going after meme culture is such a like double-edged sword.
Oh yeah, you have to be very careful.
I think rather than like meme culture or something like that, which is, you know, that dates itself immediately. I would rather say just do good writing. There's a lot of great writing in Animal Crossing. And even though I'm not playing that game, I'm seeing so many screenshots of it because this character just said this hilarious thing or this aware thing or insightful thing. So really good writing, I think, is... Well, I mean, I'm not breaking new ground by saying this, but like really good writing is critical, is the foundation for these games making success in the West. And
especially because, I mean, other than the puzzle solving element of it, the story is all it has going for it. So
and the visuals as well. So that's why like Hotel Dusk has its own thing. Famicom Tantei Club, they could lean more into the sort of anime aesthetic of it and like the, you know, the Fire Emblem style characters that you get along with, and you know, maybe even a relationship, not like relationship like dating, but relationship as in human relationship aspect of it as well. I think something like that. I don't think that something niche like visual novel territory would ever be as popular as say Fire Emblem, even though Fire Emblem is a tactical RPG. Actually thinking about this with Juan's question, it is amazing how popular Fire Emblem is. Like it really is. It should be much more niche than it is.
And also, Fire Emblem has the benefit of, because there are so many characters within there, and because it gives you that option of, you could have a favorite character in Fire Emblem and control that character. That is a great way for you to be able to relate to something in the game without the game extrinsically handing it to you on a silver platter and saying, hey, this is the person you're supposed to take care of. No, it allows you to find that out on your own.
Exactly.
So,
and I think they should... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that I think that's part of the reason why it is as successful and picked up as much as it has. So, because there's so many levels of relatability to it.
And I think that they should go with the same design style if they're going to make like a new game or something like that, or if they're going to try something new. A design style like Fire Emblem Three Houses, where... yes, you have your protagonist, they play a part in the story, but they're mostly passive, and the most stuff that you're learning about the secondary characters in the game is about them or about their relationships with each other. Because I really hate when you have, say, a silent protagonist or whatever, and the only thing you learn about the other characters is their relationship to you, not how they interact with each other. And that's what I want, because that adds to the world building, that adds to the believability, just like living and breathing in that world. And that's what I think a lot of people are looking for when they specifically go for visual novel games or games that have a very strong character-driven story.
Yeah. Honestly, if I was to answer Juan's email for the very first question that he put on here, which is basically, is it possible to replicate what Nintendo did with Fire Emblem for some of these other series? I honestly don't think so. I think Fire Emblem was very much lightning in a bottle, and there were a lot of things that kind of like clicked right into the same place. I don't know if the point and click genre has that same sort of an impact to it.
I'm going to disagree with you with one caveat. I'm going to say, yes, it's possible, but with lowered expectations, not the Fire Emblem levels of success, but success within the realm of logical expectations for a niche game that doesn't have combat, like a visual novel, like a point and click detective thing.
Yeah.
You have to sell them on the aesthetic and the characters and the relationship.
I can definitely see this becoming the next, like, with the right publicity, I could definitely see one of these games becoming as well known as, like, the Phoenix Wright series.
Yeah.
Just in that name recognition. However, I don't think that it could achieve AAA status. So
no,
yeah,
not AAA. No.
Yeah.
Even Fire Emblem isn't AAA. Like, Nintendo are masters of making their AA games look like AAA games, but in terms of budget and expectations, they're not AAA games. Which good.
Yeah.
You don't want a game to sell 13 million and say that was disappointing sales. That's crazy. And lastly, just as a side note here, I love that he mentioned Shin Onigashima and Hajimari no Mori.
Yeah, those two.
Juan, I have to say, like, God, I would love to see those games come back as well, but they are so Japanese, and they're so, like, text-based adventure, and text-based adventure games have had a very niche success in Japan, but outside of Japan, I don't think that they've ever really had much of a success. This is, like, specifically, like, text adventures, too, not even, like, visual novel kind of thing. So I don't know how that could work. I think they would have to rework the entire system. If you, Juan, are familiar, and any of our listeners are familiar with the Boku no Natsuyasumi series, or the game that's very similar to it that was on the 3DS called Attack of the Friday Monsters, something like that really pushes the home aesthetic or Japanese rural aesthetic. Something like that could be a good sell, but you have to keep it cheap, keep it short, has to be a budget game kind of thing. And even for some of these other games we were talking about with, like, Tantei Club and Hotel Dusk, make it a budget game. That will keep expectations a little lower. And I mean, I'm a huge proponent of the $20 to $40 game range. I think that it's really important to have games like that. Not everything should be a $60, $80, $90 game. So games like this, IPs like this, are a perfect chance to just do something fun like that.
Absolutely.
Galen, you should check out Attack of the Friday Monsters, because I think you would like it. It's on the 3DS, and it's like, I don't know, $7 or something like that.
That means I have to literally dust off my 3DS.
Yeah, but it's so good, though. It's a good game. Juan, thank you so much for emailing into us and getting us to talk about some of the stuff that we probably wouldn't have talked about, like, at all.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Juan.
Thank you. And everybody else listening, send us in your questions. Ask these kinds of questions that make us dig up stuff, that teach us things, that teach you things.
Absolutely.
That's NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
Yeah, when you do come up with those questions, send them over here to NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com. A bit bop boop.
Hop bop. So what's coming up? What's coming out on NintendoEverything.com? 24/7 news, that's for sure. We also got some translations that I did on Xenoblade. Plenty of info on things like Indie Live Expo 2020 and the live stream. We're going to be posting news nonstop, especially this is the month of June, where announcements are going to be left and right happening suddenly, so you want to stay connected to us. Check us out constantly, multiple times a day, NintendoEverything.com.
Most definitely. Yeah, I know that our episode was a little bit light on the news this week, but I'm positive we're going to have tons to talk about next week.
Oh, sure. And we've got the Twitter. That's at NinEverything. Our YouTube, youtube.com/NinEverything. And of course, the worst place on the internet, my Twitter, at Oni_Dino. I also have an Instagram, that's Oni__Dino for the Insta. Hug Galen.
Well, contrary to you, you can come to the best place on the internet, which is my Twitter.
Debatable.
And check me out at Mobius087. And if I ever get around to it, you can also follow me on Instagram. That is true_Mobius. Lots of cat pictures.
Such a hard sell, that.
Hey, you know what? I'm not going to lie to people on what they're getting.
Despite having lied all about the video games and what you're going to be talking about and what they're getting on this podcast. You have to give me something to believe in, Galen.
Hope.
Hope for what?
A better tomorrow.
That sounds like a Tom Cruise movie.
Can that be the title of this episode? Not a Tom Cruise movie?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Hope for a Better Tomorrow, and I was like, absolutely not.
What should we call this episode?
I don't know. I think about them like right before I upload the episode, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the last thing I ever want to do right now. Like, I don't know, just the stupidest thing that comes out of my head.
Bip bop boop.
I would love to actually name this episode.
Hot pot bip bop boop.
No, no, that is actual word salad.
I was really hoping we could just like go back and forth and just come up with funny episode titles and see which one stuck. But yeah.
All right, let's do that.
I think the moment's gone already.
No, the moment's still here. Let's call this episode Galen Stupid.
Don't you call all the episodes that? I thought that was the Galen Stupid Everything podcast.
No, that's the name of the folder that I keep all of this in.
Where do you keep the folder with all of your butt jokes?
My mind palace.
It's late.
And you're the jester. Yeah, let's go to bed. For stay tuned next week for the podcast. Until then, for everything Nintendo.
Stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Bye, guys. And no.
Everyone,
bye, everybody.
Everyone have a fantastic day, night, weekend, and everything else.
This is just supposed to be bye. What are you doing? Are we going back into the show?
Later.
Oh god, I almost clicked end on your Skype call.
Oh no.